Okie dokie. Here we go. Honestly, I've run myself ragged over the past week in testing the X-H1 Fujifilm camera. Been over the dog-eared owner's manual 4 times to make sure. And of course, the menu system is very familiar to any Fujifilm user. However, there's always some minor nuances and specialties about each and every Fujifilm camera that's unique. I've been over the owner's manual 4 or 5 times. This is the last or second part of the full review on the X-H1, and I thought it really important to go over the key points, the salient points that really everybody would want to know about the X-H1, especially some of the things that have not been mentioned or specifically emphasized about the X-H1. Importantly, number one, that the IBIS, and I've confirmed this with Fujifilm, that IBIS is connected, the in-body image stabilization is connected to the lens. Obviously you knew that lens stabilization, if there is lens stabilization in the case of the 18-135 here, is connected to the sensor stabilization such that you cannot go into the menu and turn off sensor stabilization if you have a stabilized lens connected and it is on. It is the case in such an instance as this, for example, that to turn IBIS off if you wanted to, you'd actually switch lens stabilization off at the lens. And then of course it would be turned off also in camera. So you cannot engage sensor stabilization only and yet have lens stabilization, a stabilized lens on the camera. So that's actually one thing. I was like, am I absolutely certain on this? And I confirmed that with Fujifilm. So when you do have an OIS lens, it's off and on vis-a-vis the lens, but you do have the option of choosing whether obviously it is continuous autofocus or engages the last few microseconds before the shot is taken, which is called shooting only. Or, as in the case of the X-T2, is called OIS mode number 2, which is also called shooting only on the Fujifilm X-T2. The reality is, I also confirmed this with the Fujifilm, regardless of certain lenses having 5 stops of image stabilization. The practicality, I've done a lot of testing on this, both stabilized lenses, unstabilized lenses, and adapted manual focus lenses. Adapted manual focus lenses average about 2 stops. Best, and I've got better hand-holding techniques than most people do. Best case scenario is 2 2 1/3 stops or 2.5 stops of stabilization with a stabilized lens like this, for example, or the 80mm macro, or the 100-400, or this 18-135. So the average of stabilized lenses like this, or unstabilized Fujifilm lenses like the 35mm f1.4, or adapted lenses, the average of all of those collectively is 2 or 2 1/3 stops of stabilization. And that's what people who are familiar with crop sensor stabilization have come to expect, and I certainly can confirm that out of the Fujifilm. Most important, but really unmentioned by everybody else, and it cannot be emphasized enough, and how incredible collectively that they are, is the shutter release, which is completely unique and so sensitive, and you can't feel it breaking over the shutter release. The 5-point spring stabilization on the shutter assembly itself is absolutely, I mean, it's unspeakable until you actually use the camera. It really is. You go into continuous high here, and can you hear that? Oh my God. The X-T2 is quiet enough compared to a DSLR, but the X-T2 compared to the X-H1 sounds like a freight train. Unbelievable. Nobody talks about this. Why? I mean, there's been some mention of it, but oh my God. Oh my God. The eye relief, the ergonomics, absolutely incredible. A miniature GFX, or if you want to say miniature DSLR, I mean 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You do get about 25% to 30%, and I've done a lot of testing over the past week and done a lot of shooting with it, about 25 to 30% more battery drain with the X-H1 than you do the X-T2, using the exact same S-series batteries. This is the single best do-it-all jack of all trades mirrorless camera out there. There's, regardless of what I think about other brands, I mean, I could lump, Sony and Panasonic and Fujifilm mirrorless cameras together collectively. This is obviously the reason why Fujifilm is referring to the X-H1 as their flagship camera. This really is, and if I had no cameras at all, or if I lost them all today, and if I only buy one camera tomorrow, it would be the X-H1 camera. This is absolutely so the best camera for weddings and mirrorless wildlife use. So quiet. So quiet. Ergos, image stabilization for low light shooting, say in the chapel during the wedding ceremony, combined with the, hello? That was continuous high. That was nothing. It sounded like, it's nothing. Unbelievable. Essentially the same high ISO as the X-T2, however there does seem to be, and I posted image samples on Flickr, and along with other image samples of the X-H1, slight to noticeable improvement in color channel from straight out of camera, examples of noise, so there does appear to be some high ISO. This was testing at ISO 12800, but essentially the same. Back button autofocus and touch screen. They now have, of course, a large back button autofocus that everybody's asking Fujifilm for, combined with the eye release, and combined with the fact that you're able to bring your face further away from the back of the camera, which aids in stabilization because any contact point with the back of the camera decreases stabilization potential. This is a fact of archery and other things that require stabilization and minimal contact for a device that's used for maximum stabilization. I used to teach archery lessons, so I'm very familiar with this. Certain lenses are quiet for use of the X-H1. I've been talking about this for a long time, even before the X-H1 came out, which is applicable to the X-T2, that being the 16 to 55, the 80 millimeter, the 90 millimeter, the 50 to 140, the 100 to 400. Is due to the autofocus system and the nature of the internal noise that's fed back through the camera, such that those lenses are ideal for video use with the X-H1. People think the stabilization, and no one's mentioned this other than me so far, people think the stabilization is only lens and in-body image sensor stabilization on the X-H1, but that is not true. We also have the fact that there's less induced shake due to the leaf spring shutter release, also due to the 5-point spring suspension shutter assembly, which is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The eye relief of bringing your face back away from the camera. So these three things additionally add to stabilization, not just lens and sensor stabilization. All of those things collectively make this a wonderful experience. This camera is an absolute dreamboat. That's not fanboy talk, because I have to be truthful and objective and honest and step back away from the camera, as I've done with this camera every single day. I step back, okay, I've used it, let me step back away from it and take a look at it with fresh eyes. What is this camera realistically compared to what I already own, or what compared to someone else would, discover about this camera, not owning a mirrorless camera before, not owning a Fujifilm camera. Well, this is the single, do-it-all, jack-of-all-trades, and master of those trades camera. If someone's wanting to move into a mirrorless camera, I can think of no better single choice than this camera. Fujifilm is going to continue to give firmware updates and loving, as any other Fujifilm user and owner knows, as far as firmware updates. Honestly, I give the camera a 9.5 out of 10, and that's really hard to say. I thought about making it, so is this camera really a 9.5 out of 10? What are the negative points on the X-H1? There's no such thing as a perfect camera. Obviously not. The camera does chew on the batteries 30% more than the X-T2, so yeah, the camera does use more power than the X-T2. It just does. I've been cranking on this camera hard. I've been beating this camera from top to bottom and front to back for days and days, and yeah, it does. 25-30% more battery use. So, if I wasn't critical of something on any camera that I reviewed, then it would just be BS fanboy talk, and that doesn't help anybody. This camera's great, it slices and dices, you'll love it, it'll kiss, nobody needs that kind of talk. That doesn't help anybody. It's like, okay, we know you love the camera and the company, whatever, you know, shut the hell up. That doesn't help me. So I can't make reviews like that are helpful or useful. I have to be critical, and it's like, what are the critical things in the camera? Other than the battery, and that can be fixed in firmware, nothing. And what really shocked me about the X-H1, as I've already said, mine is coming, by the way. This one's borrowed. Mine will be here in 2 or 3 days. What really shocked me is all the important stuff on this camera that's so exquisite is really gone, lightly glossed over or totally unmentioned by everybody else. I did expect, realistically, street value-wise, that there to be 2 stops of stabilization, or 2 plus on the stabilized lens in combination with the with the IBIS. You know, 2 1/3. I mean, realistically, with a 90% hit rate on non-fuzzy images, to shoot this all day long, low light or bright light at depending on what you want to shoot at. You know, I always shoot aperture priority or manual anyway. That's all I shoot is aperture priority or manual. Shoot at 1/10 of a second, 1/15 of a second, confidently. So you get 2 2.5 stops on the X-H1. It is a beefy little sucker. It's a lot more lightweight than I thought. When I got this camera, it had already been used by somebody, and there's a smudge on the sensor, which I saw in the images. It's like, oh, there's a smudge on the sensor. I saw it immediately when I took the lens off, and I've already cleaned. I guess I say I'm the first person in the United States, other than maybe some Fujifilm tech. Actually, I asked them. They said they hadn't cleaned the sensor. So I guess I'm the first person in America to have cleaned the sensor on a Fujifilm IBIS, and I have cleaned the sensor. No big deal. I already made a video too to upload on sensor cleaning on the Fujifilm camera. This camera's a dreamboat. I can't wait for mine to come in. It's unfortunate that I got to send this one back, but it's not mine. I borrowed it, so. What a damn camera. Really. Really enjoy this. The touchscreen autofocus too. The fact that I can back my face back away, use my thumb for autofocus point selection, and after a shot, if my thumb isn't lifted up, there's a 0 lag on readjusting the autofocus point vis-a-vis the touchscreen. And the touchscreen is adjustable from left to right, one half, one side or the other, the entire screen, or one corner or this corner. Great. And you also have a swipe techniques for, and those are customizable in the display, hitting the back display for button adjustment. That not only do I have all my function settings, I also have left, right, top, and bottom swipe settings, as you swipe the screen from the left, swipe the screen from the top. Great, wonderful. I love the top LCD, which I'm used to from the Fujifilm GFX. Don't need the exposure compensation dial. The exposure compensation dial is still here. The only difference is now it's on the rear command dial, which I have it set to in your menu system. So anybody that's getting the X-H1, you're going to love the piss out of it. You really are. And that's not fanboy talk. I have to make realistic videos that are helpful, intelligent, and logical. Not just, oh my god, this camera's great. Yeah, shut the hell up. Reviews like that are not useful to anybody. Not useful to me either. I don't want to watch videos like that. Oh great, you love the camera, so what? You know, oh it's great, it's perfect, it does everything, there's nothing wrong with it. There's no such thing as a perfect camera. I can't fault this camera for anything other than like 25-30% more battery use than the X-G2, but so what? I got a bunch of batteries. No big deal. That can't be fixed in firmware. Fujifilm does amazing stuff in firmware. Far better than everybody else does collectively. You know, this isn't even up for debate. That's just an undeniable fact. So the X-H1, I do consider a must-buy. Is it a serious upgrade from the X-T2? Oh, hell yes. As I stated in a prior video, even if you were to completely ignore IBIS, and even if you were to ignore all the endless, countless additional video feature capabilities, which nobody would on this camera, but even if you were to ignore those two things, this is one hell of an upgrade from the X-T2. It just is. Based upon all those things that I said, which are not my opinions, those are facts. The X-T2 shutter release sounds like a freight train compared to this, and the X-T2 is really quiet compared to a DSLR. Really, really great camera. Everything's been done right on this camera. I complained about the Q button selection on the X100. Like, oh, Fuji, Jesus, why did you stick it there? Damn, dumb. That was on the X100F. Wonderful camera, but yeah, you put the butt. There's nothing to complain about on this camera. I've looked for things to bitch about it, but there's nothing. No, there really isn't. Thanks so much for watching these videos. I am totally wore the hell out. I mean, I have pushed it to the edge and then some. I mean, you can tell I'm worn out looking. I am. This is my vacation, but I've enjoyed my vacation testing the X-H1 Fuji. I can't wait for mine to come here in 2 or 3 days. If you like these videos, you can click the link below. Since I have no affiliate links and I don't sell junk and crap like hats and other stupid garbage, you know, donating $1 or $2 would be profoundly welcome. Namaste. Thank you so much. Aloha. Увидимся. Пока. До свидания. Увидимся. I already said увидимся. That's Russian, by the way. Russian for catch you later. Click the link below. Tell me to jump off a cliff. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever tickles your pickle. Here we go. I need some caffeine. I need some coffee. Coffee. Fuji! Goodbye.